Hey everyone, Rob coming at you from Karma Comment Chameleon with what is probably the funniest AskReddit thread I have read in a very long time. What is the dumbest thing your significant other has said or done? Let's jump right in. Current girlfriend thought that the movie showings during the day were manatee shows. I had to explain to her that they are in fact matinee shows. She told me she only waxes her legs because if you shave one hair, then it splits and two grow back in its place. I asked him to plant a baby tree in the back garden. The next day I saw it and thought it looked strange. Walked up and it had been planted upside down. He thought the roots were tiny limp branches. Laughed for days. She's not very good with words and English is her first language. I got freezer bite on my hands. Her idioms also need some work. You sound like the wolf who cried. You opened up a whole new worm. I had a kid prior to getting together with my fiance and having a second daughter. The father of my eldest is not in the picture, and my wonderful fiance has taken her on as his own, to the point that he frequently forgets that she isn't his genetic offspring. We were at a holiday party at his parents' house. I was talking to my future sister-in-law about my eldest and her night terrors when fiance pops off with, "She gets that from my side of the family." Cue really confused faces all around. His sister sat there and started questioning what other genetic diseases my eldest has magically gotten from stepdad. It took a few minutes before he figured it out. I love this man. We bought a new car. She asked me if I'd changed the settings to Spanish because it said ajar on the dash when the door was open. We were driving through some back roads and past a couple pastures. She saw some cows and started very excitedly trying to get my attention, grabbing on my arm and saying, babe, look how fat those horses are." I've never let it go and she still doesn't think it's funny. As I'm in labor with our daughter, my husband asks, "Do you want her to have an innie or an outie belly button?" Weird question, but whatever. So I tell him I don't mind either way, both are cute. And then he says, yeah, but when the doctor asks, which should we pick for her? He thought when they clamp the umbilical cord, parents tell the doctor the type of belly button they prefer. He's really smart, I promise. When my wife and I started dating in the mid-1980s, she knew I was a huge fan of David Letterman. She said she had a huge surprise for me as she had tickets to see Letterman at a local venue. I was confused since David Letterman did not tour. I looked at the tickets she purchased and they were for the old 60s band, The Letterman. We didn't go, but I married her 30 years this September. One time my husband called me at work. "Babe, you're gonna be mad. I made a mess, but don't worry, I'll fix it." I didn't even ask, just sighed, because he is basically Lucy from I Love Lucy. When I got home a little bit later, it was to a living room covered in gray powder. My husband completely filthy with a trash bag and broom and a super panicked look on his face. Turned out, he'd decided to help around the house and wanted to clean the fireplace. He just decided the best way to do it would be to stand in front of it with a trash bag and use the leaf blower to blow the ashes in. Spoiler, that doesn't work. I didn't want to hurt his feelings, but I laughed my ass off, and it's still one of my favorite weird things he's done. I'll answer for my wife. I had gone to Home Depot to pick up a trailer hitch ball for my truck. I didn't realize that they had different shaft sizes, and I didn't know which size I needed, so I called my wife and this conversation took place. Me, "Are you at the house?" Her, "Yeah, why?" Me, "Can you go out into the driveway and measure the hole in the bumper of my truck? It should be either 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch. There's a pause. Her, "Isn't your truck with you?" Yes it was. That was how I'd gotten to Home Depot. I'd forgot. My favorite memory of my parents is going to some fast food joint through the drive-thru. Mom is driving and giving our orders to the cashier. Just as she finishes, my dad casually says, "To go." Mom turns back to the cashier and says, "To go." 2 seconds of buffering later, and she slaps my dad full on in the chest, who is laughing effing hysterically. Don't think we've ever let her live that down. My boyfriend, as we were looking up to the beautiful night sky, wow, there's so much we don't know about the universe, like where the stars go during the day, are they still there? If not, where did they go? He was dead serious. My deeply intelligent wife lost her car, like left it in a parking lot and somehow got home on Friday. Monday morning I got a text, "Where's my car?" She's gonna finish her medical degree next year. My husband and I were at Canadian Tire and they had tiny examples of tents. Basically looked like they were made for Barbie dolls and the pricing for each underneath. He turned to me shocked and asked, "Why are these so expensive for such tiny tents?" I almost died laughing. I showed her how to crack an egg by tapping it against another egg, and she thought this meant any amount of force would be absorbed by only one egg, and smashed 2 eggs together, spraying yolk everywhere. My now ex-girlfriend got a Polaroid camera for Christmas. Jokingly one day I said, "Does it take videos?" And she very seriously said, "I'm sure it does, but I haven't tried that feature yet." As we were driving along the road, we saw a horse with its head over a gate. We slowed down, she opens the window and says, "Moo." We were sitting in a bus in the middle of heavy rush hour traffic. I'm kind of a car geek, so I spotted a mint condition 1970s classic Mustang. I just went and said, "Look honey, a car." There were hundreds of them. I don't think she'll ever let me live this down. We were on a walk in a rural area with lots of farmers' fields full of sheep and cows. He looks off to a field in the distance, turns around to me and says, "Why do they keep birds in a field?" She ate cold turkey to try and quit smoking. Once me and my SO went for a walk around a local nature reserve. On the way in, we got a map given to us so we could navigate the area. Later on the walk, she is looking at the map and says to me, "These maps really need a 'you are here' on them." It took me a second to realize what she meant, so I explained that it's a handheld map and that it wouldn't be possible. It took 4 or 5 attempts before it clicked with her. Late to the party, but my parents have an extremely ugly little dog. Like, this little thing is unfortunate. A cross between a chihuahua and some sort of lesser demon. Buggy eyes, underbite, just ugly. And she picks on my dogs, so she's not my favorite. But this little creature adores my husband. One day he came into my parents' house from work, I was already there, and Ugly Dog runs up to him like she just won the lottery. He scoops her up laughing, and completely without thinking he said, "TikTok Maven, why is it that only the ugly girls like me?" There was dead silence, and his expression blanched in slow motion. It was like someone looking down and realizing they had crapped all over the floor. I said nothing, just got up and walked outside. The sounds of his pitiful groveling following me. "Not you, I didn't mean you. Oh God, I'm so sorry, I didn't." I know he meant nothing by it, but to this day my entire family gives him crap for it. He definitely paid for the faux pas. I love my husband, but I have watched him empty a vacuum cleaner bag into a wire wastebasket. I, on the other hand, am frequently unable to remember common words and have to resort to saying things like, "the box you put stuff in to make it cold." One time while dating my now wife, we got into a playful pinching fight while I was driving. Probably not a great idea, but we were young. She starts getting frustrated and pinching harder, but my right arm was hooked on her left arm, like when you walk together with your arms hooked in the movies. She pinched herself and thought it was me. She pinched so hard she screamed and got mad. Her next reaction was what made me almost crash. She doubled down and did it again harder and screamed even louder. Somehow she didn't realize it was her arm the way we were hooked together. Even though in that position I had no way to touch her, she was getting pissed because I was cracking up. Just remembering her anger, then confusing, always makes me laugh. My boyfriend thought that a sushi roll was a cross-section of a raw eel. Tried to make baked potatoes in the microwave for the first time, wrapped them in tinfoil. came to ask me why there were lightning bolts in the microwave and why it was getting very hot. We were driving one day and were stopped at a red light. She looked at a sign and the following exchange occurs. Her, what a dumb name for a street. Me, huh? What street? Her, Bone Marrow Drive? Who would name a street Bone Marrow Drive? It was a sign for a local Bone Marrow Drive that would be taking place, not the name of the street. We still talk about it to this day. Nothing too dumb. I have a fan with different settings labeled L, M, H for how fast the fan spins. She was looking at it and told me she set the fan too large. Now ex-girlfriend from high school, her power had gone out in the neighboring town. She called crying saying she had so much homework to complete. I said to drive to my house since I still had power. She yelled at me saying, "How dare you attempt to get me to drive? How do you expect me to do that? My headlights won't work." It didn't last much longer after that. He picked up our friend's keys, thinking one of her keychains was a laser pointer. It was mace. He got a nice spray to the face, and I was sitting right next to him, so I got a lovely dose as well. For the next 30 minutes or so, the entire apartment was coughing and dying and trying to air the place out. Even our friend who was upstairs showering could feel the effects. Still love him though. In our language, maple and moose are almost the same word. To make it short, she thought maple syrup was made out of moose horn. In high school, my girlfriend said, "Do you know what I just realized? There's no state that starts with the letter F. We went to school in Florida." On the phone trying to describe where we are to her parents, "We are behind the car that's in front of us." I lost it. What do you put in carrot cake to make it carrot flavored? Is it carrot zest? I've never let him live it down. My wife couldn't think of the word wood and told me to clean up my tree chunks. Ex-girlfriend now, but one time we were talking about changes in taste preferences when she said taste bugs. I corrected her and she looked at me confused. She had thought that taste buds was taste bugs her entire life up until that moment. My fiance was setting up for my 30th birthday at a bar. She was blowing up balloons with her mouth and taping them to the wall on the outside deck the bar had. She asked me, "Why aren't they floating up?" You know, I can relate to a lot of these. Sometimes I'm not the sharpest knife in the shed. This is Rob from Karma Comic Chameleon saying thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, like, and share with your friends, and we'll see you in the next video.